I have to tell you, I'm having the most fun of my life, and I know you can too, and I know it's a struggle. Don't get me wrong. You just don't walk out into Monday and all of it falls in your lap. But I do write my books on that beach in Hawaii. Kind of nice, huh? And I do get to stand on stages. And by the way, when they were giving you advice for networking, one of the best advice that I can give for networking is not who you know, but who knows you. And so by standing on stages and helping other people, people know me. And it makes it a lot easier than my trying to just constantly beat on doors. So if you have the opportunities, like with AARP with Debbie, and other people to be on the stage, so to speak, not necessarily the stage, but at the forefront of doing some of the work, that's a great way to get known. It truly is. So here's the truth about the 21st century. You heard some of it from Phil. This is probably the most important piece in my mind every day of my life. Who will work? When will we work? Where will we work? And if we will work. And today, if you don't figure that out, who, what, where, when, you won't. You'll be in the if, I don't know. It is tough. Nobody said it isn't tough. But it's not impossible. And if you do the work, you can have the outcome. There's the beginning and end of truth. If you do the work, you can have the outcome. If you wait for something to happen to you, you'll be waiting here next year this time. So, enough of kind of abrupt. So we're going to talk today about the inevitability of change. So you see it again. You've got to understand that what's true today is not true even a year from now. I looked at, just give you an aside, did you happen to see that Cisco laid off 6,000 people? Did you happen to look further and ask why? Here's what I did. This is how you learn. I said, well, their stock must be terrible. It isn't. And I thought, well, maybe they let people go in other countries. They didn't. Why are all these people gone? Why? They don't need those skills anymore. They don't need the skills anymore. But look at it. You've got to look at it differently than, oh, layoff must be something wrong happening at the company. Not necessarily true. Microsoft laid off 16,000. Do you know why? Why? Same direction. It's some things are becoming obsolete, and some things are becoming new, and the people who didn't keep up, or couldn't keep up, or wouldn't keep up, aren't going to be there to do it. So how hard is it to keep up? It's bloody easy. I don't want to put this, you don't have to go study engineering. I don't care about your college degree. I really don't. I care about your skills. And you can get skills online today in a community college, on a MOOC. Do you know what a MOOC is? MOOC. Look it up. I'm not going to tell you. Who? Why do I not tell you? Because when you look it up, you're going to see the opportunity. MOOC, learning through MOOCs. Stanford, MIT, all of them have online learning, non-degree oriented, skills oriented. MOOCs, look up MOOCs, that's your first challenge there. So we'll look at a range of alternatives. I think it'll be fun, selected ways to work. And the 4 top individual choices today. Different next year. This time maybe, but today. And then a little bit of process so you get a sense of how to do it. So we're going to talk about the who, why, what, where, and how. A little bit of how. In your books, or whatever those things are called that were handed out, those little bolsa bags, you will see the San Diego Mature Workforce, and you'll see it on the slides. I want you to take a note of their website. Because we have a book on the website that will tell you how, and it's free. So just keep paying attention to each slide. There'll be something to take. So here's the bottom line. We have moved from a unisource-driven economy to a multi-source-driven economy. That's really good news for boomers, gang. That means there's full-time, part-time, some of the time. And by the way, many, many people, like some of us here today, work pretty full-time for ourselves or collaboratively with people even in other countries. And it's fun, and it's profitable. It's all of that, more so than any regular job I ever had. But it's hard work. And so don't be afraid of hard work. So what? You've been working hard all your lives. So we've moved from a unisource-driven, job-driven economy to a multi-source, work-driven economy. In fact, I had to erase the word job from my vocabulary too. It's one way of working only. One way of working. There are many ways to have a good outcome. What did I do? So this is the inevitable. I am going to promise you this is true. Write it down. Businesses today are charged with matching labor to projects for the exact duration of need, no more, no less, period. Adjust or fail. Am I too direct for you? It's the truth nobody talks about. If I need you today, I want you today. How do you think I work? Do you think it's almost 76 years old, somebody is saying, oh, do come have a job with us? But you know what they do say? We'd love it if you would help us to do X. I get the fun, I get the plane trip, and I get to do work that matters to me and to the community. That's not bad, is it? That's kind of a good way to think about life. But this is the bottom truth from the organizational perspective. You're not needed full-time. You're not going to be hired full-time. And the individual perspective, to go back to my harsh self, my very direct self, adjust or fail. How many agree with that? How many disagree? I'll see you after class. I always wanted to say that. I always wanted to be a teacher and say that after, I'll see you after class. Just kidding. So here's the range of alternatives. There's so many. It's mind-boggling. You can just look at a few of these. One range of work that a lot of people don't think of as work is learning. That is work. It's hard work. It doesn't carry an immediate paycheck, but it should be in your repertoire, always learning something. We're talking about cell phones and smartphones and LinkedIn and all that kind of thing. Yeah. If you can't do it, where can you learn to do it? Right here. Right here. Right here today. And if you still are scared of it, call your grandchild and tell the 10-year-old that you need some help. And by golly, I've learned a lot from the kids. And so when I look at millennials and everybody else, I love us all. I think we have a business to learn from old to young, young to old. In Hawaii, there's a saying, and the saying is the setting sun not as beautiful as the rising sun? Makes me so emotional when I say that, because they tell me that. And so age is just another stage. You have something to teach, and you have something to learn. But you cannot live without learning. You won't be able to work. Yes?
Will you please repeat the phrase that you said?
The phrase from Hawaii? Can I do it without crying? Okay. Is the setting sun any less beautiful than the rising sun? Oh, it makes me so emotional. It does, because I really believe that. Look at the sunset. Look at the sunrise. We're all here. We're in this together. We'll work our way out of it together, or we won't work our way out of it. And I'll tell you an interesting thing about California. I always have these asides because I spend so much time studying. Do you know that there are over 100,000 boomers have moved home with their parents? Not to take care of their parents, but to be taken care of by their parents. Want me to repeat that? Almost no one does. Look it up. It's there for you to see. Now, I can't imagine my 50-year-olds coming home to mama, but that's happening in a very big way. In a very big way. So look at all the things. Franchising. Piecework is back. You ever hear of piecework? What's piecework? By the piece. It's big again. Believe it or not, it is. So people who have interests in handwork and different things like that, there's a woman, back to Hawaii, because I have to look at you and say this. She takes vintage 1940s Hawaiian clothing and redesigns using that material for clothing today. And her outfits go for $300-400 a dress. She saw another way. She saw the old stuff in the save shops, or whatever they call them there, the saver shops, and said, I can do something with this. See another way. Franchising, big today. The biggest franchise opportunity I know of today is called daddy deals. What's a daddy deal? Nobody knows. It's because daddy sees the trouble that the kids have had trying to get permanent, so-called, jobs, and they buy a franchise for their children, their adult children, in order to launch them in their own business. And FranNet, who you'll hear from today if you go there, they talk about these daddy deals. Could be a mommy deal too, they just happen to call it a daddy deal. But it's really to let the father or the mother work a little later in life, set their kids up, then retire, so that the kids have something to come into. In franchise world, that's a big deal. Now think about how appealing that can be, rather than eating up your savings on what? People who have some money say, maybe I can get a business going for my kids. Small business does similar things, but in the franchise, ask that question. You have a FranNet person coming here today, I believe. SME, I'm an SME. What's that stand for? Sexually mature expert? Close enough? Subject matter expert, but I like yours too. That's kind of fun, yeah. So some of us who have a specific competency through lots of learning, many of the speakers here today, we work as subject matter experts. You need this kind of help, you call me. But nobody wants to hire me. I promise you, and I don't want to be hired. I was offered a job when I was 70. And I gave him the Groucho Marx line, which is I wouldn't hire anybody, I wouldn't go to work for anybody who would hire me. And Phil would flip that I would say that, but I was actually offered a job, turned it down. Why? Because there's plenty of things to do. I wasn't so desperate at that point that I couldn't figure it out. I did have Social Security and Medicare by then. So I had a starting point. So for some of you who are at that point, be careful. Don't just jump in because it looks good for the moment, because often it isn't. So look at all these different things, all the choices. And if something appeals to you, that's what I meant 15, 20 minutes a day. If you look at franchising and say, that's kind of appealing, start setting it. What are the big franchises? What's hot? What's not? And we're not talking about the $1 million McDonald's franchises. We're talking about franchises that can be as low as $25,000. Now, I'm not saying that's cheap. I'm saying it's possible for some people to be able to afford $25,000 to $50,000 to invest in their own future. Other people, not so much. But the people I know who have, they've gone into a lot of technology repair franchises. Instead of throwing it away, fix it. Very big business today, and they're doing extremely well. And you know what? 10 years ago, I might have made that choice. This is now, that was then. So there's some ideas for you. Virtual work, we're going to talk about that in a minute, and we're going to talk about other things. But here's what I want you to think about. If you're looking to work in ways other than a job, what do you call yourself? What most people do is they say, I'm a consultant. A consultant is somebody who immediately triggers out of work, looking for a job. So let me call myself a consultant. You're not a consultant, you're nothing. You're using a term, like the word permanent, that no longer exists. I want you to start defining yourself, if you're going to do other work, realistically, so people get it. I'm not a consultant. I'm not an out-of-work person looking for a job. What I am is a part-time worker doing X. Consulting, please. That's, high-priced advice from Anderson or somebody like that. That's not what we are. That's a term that's obsolete and shouldn't be used. So if you say, well, I'm a subject matter expert, explain it. What about you, Debbie? What are you?
I'm searching right now.
She's searching. I want you to start thinking, because when you're doing your marketing homework and your networking and doing your studying, your research, start thinking how you want to present that. I'm going to be a subject matter expert in gerontology. I'm going to be a subject matter expert in the workforce. I'm going to be a subject matter expert in X, Y, or Z, but not a consultant. So start by looking and defining yourself, and then look at where the opportunities are for these people. Let me tell you something about the temp world, for example. Fastest growing companies in the United States, 2 of the 3 top fastest growing companies in the United States, Manpower and Kelly Services. Fastest growing. And if you go further and deeper into them, you will find that some of their fastest growing opportunities are in the professional ranks. A lot of these firms have many, many people working all over the world through their temp agencies. And you talk about workers' comp all you want. There are deals to be made. Inquire. Start figuring out. If you have another language, for example, I can do all of what I'm doing here today in Spanish. It's a great advantage, isn't it? Yeah. So think about what you have that's unique, that makes you special, that fits with the description you're going to make of yourself. Not I'm searching for work. This is what I want to do next. I want to be a part-time person in the field that I've come to really understand, blah, blah, blah. And use the word part-time so it's clearly understood. Or sometimes when people talk to me, would you work full-time? I do work full-time. I just don't work full-time for pay. I get paid for the occasional time that somebody needs me. So pay attention to what you're using as language. 50% of the workforce by 2020 will not be full-time regular employees. How could you not look at that aspect of the workforce? You can look at, I'm not saying don't look for jobs. I'm saying don't look just for jobs. There's a whole 50% that you could be looking at. We'll talk about that in a minute. So the difference between some of these terms, if you say I work temps, like through a temp agency, like a Manpower, then you're represented in the marketing thing. They find the position, they deal with the client company. You earn pretty much what's offered. Oh, we'll pay you $20 an hour, that's what you're going to get. And it's very resume-centric still. And it emphasizes your links with staffing firms. So let me take you another step. You heard Phil say there are some staffing firms that specialize. It isn't just Manpower and Kelly and the big guys. There are some small staffing firms that are fabulous in niche markets. So when you're discovering what little market you're interested in, that's what you study. Which staffing firms are really known for those markets? Now, if you're a freelancer, I am, and my pals are, I have to do my own marketing, my own selling, my own negotiating. There's nobody behind the scenes. Does that make you nervous? Anybody get nervous when I have to market and sell and negotiate? Okay, so I'm going to give you one piece of advice. In freelancing, the best thing I ever did, I took a sales training class, not an interviewing class, and learned how good salespeople sell. Not much different than the interviewing. Different questions, but easy. Easy breezy. So we teach you interviewing in all these different groups, right? Who has taught you selling? Take a sales course. Learn the techniques of people, how to close, how to advance things, and then it becomes fun. And you're not trying to gouge anyone, you're just learning how to play that game. So the freelancer has multiple tools. They're rarely resume-centric. They have portfolios, either online or hard copy. They have websites always. If you're temping, you don't have to have all of that. It's an advantage. But if you're freelancing, you must have all of that. You must have those connections that allow people to know you. How many have LinkedIn here today? Okay, how many have over 500 people? That's your aim. If you get less than 500 people, you just, you see, I go to LinkedIn things and there's 5 people on their site. You want to build that LinkedIn presence. It's really important. You're going to learn how to do that today with Melissa if you're going to that particular group. The thing that's advantage is to know how to do both. And I'll show you how most people are going to be working in a bit. But in freelancing, these are the common roles for freelancers. You'll see a lot of them, people who do this work, doing it on their own, similar to some of the folks here with me today. So coaches, lots of coaches, freelancers. Graphic design, social media. Melissa's an example. She has an exclusive agreement with LinkedIn, but she's still Melissa. And while she works for LinkedIn pretty much full time, she is free to do other things. And that's a really powerful place to be, especially with so much change going on. Not to be stuck, it's this, and when that's over, it's over. No, not such good. So these are some of the typical. You want to see this online, go to Best Freelance Jobs or Best Freelance Work, and they'll be ranked by actual usage. If you want to freelance, study it. Who gets to freelance the most? Some people belong in the temp world, some people belong in the freelance. The fastest growth in the temp agencies, not necessarily in San Diego, but in general, are the interim executives. Remember my story about Steve Jobs, said I'll come back as an interim, but I'm not taking this as a permanent, and made his deal. So interim executives make hot deals. But they're also under the gun, really. I mean, you succeed or fail very fast, you're out. But that's very fast opportunity, even through temp agencies, is what I'm telling you. Not just as an interim alone. In the temp world for interim executives, if you happen to be an executive, look it up. I have the answers, but you need them, not me. So look it up, interim executive temp agency. The super temp, Harvard Business Review, I know most people don't read it, but I do, talked about the fastest growing globally are the super temps, meaning the really high level technology experts, not by degree, by skills and competency. So you have to look that up. Look up super temps. Get the definition, if that interests you. Global. Does anybody want to go global? Ditto. I always wanted to. I'm doing some work, and I'll give you, this is part of the storytelling. I mentor some University of Tokyo students in English. Why? Why would you think I'd do that?
Well, it gives you a connection to them, and they need it.
And, no, it's nuts, they're needing it. I did it for me. And why I did it, I mean, I'm touched by the fact that, yes, I do everything for others. But the reason I did it, if I want to do work with the University of Tokyo, I have to do something for them first. And so I was asked to write another playbook, and I turned to the person who asked it, and I said, well, great. And they said, we understand you work for free. And I said, oh, really? And they said, well, yeah, we don't have much money. I have more money than I've ever seen. And they said, well, what do you want out of it? I said, now you've got the question. What's in it for me? And money is not the only answer. What's in it for me at the University of Tokyo is a connection with the university, with people who do work with them. What's in it for them is I do that work for free. But there's always, always an exchange. If you do something for someone else and you don't realize something from it, some little something, I promise you, it'll start getting sour fast. It's like any relationship. Every relationship has to have the give and the take. How you define the take is not just money, though. Remember that. It may be the means to the end. Will I get paid by the University of Tokyo? I don't know. That's my investment. Do I hope I will? Yeah, be fun. But I did it for free for the long-term gain. So keep remembering, money is one means of exchange, but not by any means the only means. This is the top choices. Most people today are what I call a savvy cycler, meaning they might have had a job last year, but they saw what was coming. They saw the uneasiness in the organization, and they started preparing. You always, always, always have to be in that mode. What do I need that I don't have? And make sure you go get it. And it's easy. It really is easy. So they prepare, and the first thing they do is they take a temp. They go out and they let manpower place them. And then all of a sudden something else comes up. And they freelance. They go do it themselves. They've taken the sales training, the negotiation training. And then from perhaps that freelance option comes a job offer, and they take the job. And since, as Phil said, the average length of employment is about 3 years, the likelihood is they'll be out here again. That's called job cycling, or just plain cycling. And it doesn't stand against you in terms of going to somebody and they say, well, do you want a job or do you want to work temporarily? I want to do good work that matters for me and for you. What's the exchange? Well, we don't need you full time, but we do need you on Tuesday. Okay, it's the start of a conversation, isn't it? If you think about it, it makes sense. What do you need from me? What do I need from you? And you will cycle. So when you go out into your own world, it's not forever necessarily. Somebody will come along and say, you want to do this? How about that? It's very powerful. It's wonderful to feel that what you have is valued. So don't worry about the fact that you had a temp and the next job offer said, well, will you stay with us? Well, my answer to that is sure, as long as we both show love. It's kind of like a true answer. You know, will you promise me I'll have a job with you 5 years from now? Well, no, we can't do that. Will I promise you I'll be honorable and handle everything that we do together that way? Sure. For as long as we both shall love, as it goes. I think that's wonderful, don't you? It's a great way to think of it. I don't know where I am in time. Is anybody paying attention? Thank you. The number 2 way that people work, number 1 is the cyclers. The next is to have a portfolio. You've heard of stock portfolios? You've got some long-term investments, some short-term return, and then maybe a little speculation in there, right? Well, a portfolio is a great way to work because it continues some form of income while you're repositioning for the future. So in other words, if you're talking about a portfolio, you do what it takes for short-term income, whatever it takes. I need the money, kid. I got to do something. And the only thing they'll hire me for is to do X. Perfect. But I keep my eye and keep positioning for the long-term gain. I keep studying. It may be I'm in school or what have you. The portfolio is the way to work. Take it to the bank. That will allow you to continue to earn while you learn, which is a powerful thing to be able to do as opposed to just sit out here. So you take the crummy temp that you didn't want because you need the money. What's wrong with that motivation? Sometimes you do it for the money, right? But always keep in mind that you're building your portfolio the whole time. Another way of doing it, and you'll see today, starting small business, there's a workshop on that. Some people take temps while they start a small business. I mean small business. I'm not talking about the big franchise investment, but a small business. I want to start a business Well, let's see. What's hot today? Hottest business you can think of right off the top of your head, small business today. What? A juice bar. Maybe. Coffee? Well, Kona Coffee isn't here yet, dear, so. Child care. Elder care. Home care. But you don't have to do that day in, day out, and nothing else. That's tough. Remember I said I was a caretaker? Let me tell you, that's the toughest job I ever had. So keep in mind that for some people, start a small business. Can't realize a lot of money for it. One of the fastest growing small businesses, I don't get at all, I really don't get, is all this exceptional pet care stuff. Now, I know Petco parks here, and I'm not insulting them. Please don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But when I start putting raincoats on my dog, a very cold day, and I don't know where. But there are people who disagree. There are people who make dog food, for example, and sell it at the farmer's market to get started. I know of someone just like that, and who within 1 year had an agreement, not with Petco or PetSmart, one of them, to supply this gourmet dog food. Whatever happened to the fact that when we had dogs ate whatever was around? But this is today, okay? This is today. Many people don't have children, so you can see the emphasis on pets has changed a lot because they're alone and they're lonely, and pets are great companions. So look around. If you want to start a small business, keep some income flowing. That's a portfolio, another way. In the portfolio world, this is what I do. How can this old lady stand on a stage and be in demand every week of her life? You want to know how? It's called a sigmoid curve. Who's heard of the sigmoid curve? You have. Put your hand up. Sigmoid curve says that in every business, every relationship, everything, you start here, looks really hot, doesn't it? This is good. Grows, 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 grows. And there comes a point in time when you see it cresting. For some people, it's kind of like marriage. You know, it all starts here, and it's beautiful, 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 and then you see a point in time, I don't know. Before it goes downhill is when you start putting in the other piece of the portfolio. Before, not after. Don't come sit here again. Always have that sigmoid curve. You want to know more about the sigmoid curve? Where? Google. Look it up. There's a lot. It's so exciting when you get it. It tells you just how to do it. How am I going to stay ahead of what's needed next? I'll give you an example again, storytelling. My knee isn't so great yet. Maybe it'll get fine, maybe it won't. Maybe I'm going to do more writing. What kind of writing and for whom? What's going to be hot? What's not? You look at that now while you're still standing on the stage, not after you can't stand. It's absolutely the way a good life in terms of work is run. Pay attention to what's coming, not what's been. The sigmoid curve will tell you all about it. The other top choice is virtual work is huge. You will see in your playbook a fellow here who went into virtual work. And that is the second fastest growing way of hiring people in the United States. And you'll see the percentages because we put them in there. So virtual work, what's virtual work? When you call Southwest Airlines and you want to go to Washington or wherever, you think you're talking to someone at the counter? No. When you call, think of some other ones like that. You call Amazon. You call your insurance carrier. You're probably not talking to somebody who is in some office sitting there working with them. For boomers, that's a great way, either as part of a portfolio, which is how our fellows started it, or as a way of working. Virtual work. It's really fun. Maybe. Maybe. Not everybody's suited for virtual work. Many people are suited to do some of their portfolio in virtual work, but I don't think I could sit there from 8 to 5 answering airline questions. But you know who's the biggest portfolio growth today in retail? Nordstrom. Haute couture. You heard of that? Anybody? Women especially? Retail is undergoing a tremendous metamorphosis. The online retail sales are killing store retail sales. So the big firms like a Nordstrom said, we're not building any more Nordstroms. Not now, not ever. We have the rack, I'm going to keep that, but we're going to have haute couture. And the people on haute couture, I could put on my British accent. I bet they'd take me. You think I'm kidding? No, you can play a game that's different if you just look at things differently. I have a great British accent, also Spanish. If you care to hear it, just ask. Bartering is another big way, and it's especially a big way to get in for pay later. University of Tokyo story. What's the barter? At this point, my barter is hoping to get in, but I've bartered with people constantly. I can't afford it, but I need you. Well, what can we talk about that makes sense to both of us? Well, we could give you an upgrade on your computer. Done. You needed new Verizon, the latest phone. Done. Bartering is 350, 400,000 US businesses do it routinely. Routinely. It's a way to get established in something you want to do for a fee. So you barter with somebody and say, what do I get? You're satisfied. What do they get? They're satisfied. You don't barter or exchange in some way, I promise you, you'll feel used. Because they almost always ask for more, if you know what I mean. But bartering's a good way. So, number one, cycling. That's the number one way people are working today. Number two, portfolios. Number three, the virtual work. And number four, the bartering. I can give you 10 more ways, and they're in your book. So you're going to see people who did some remarkable things. One fellow I remember specifically was a tile setter. And he got to be 59 years old and said, I don't think I can do this much longer. My knees are hurting. My back is hurting. And he has his story about how he went into phlebotomy. What's phlebotomy? Drawing blood. And here's a funny thing. I said to him, well, you better be watching for the next curve. He said, what do you mean? I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. Just read 2 weeks after he had talked with me that now automation is taking over a lot of the phlebotomy. Is he paying attention? Is he looking at the sigmoid curve? Is he looking at the market? He better be. It's not over till it's over. And the fact is that phlebotomy used to be one person drawing your blood, and now it's a machine. No double pokes. Yes?
You had mentioned Nordstrom and haute couture. So are you saying that they are offering it for sale online?
Yes. And let me share with you, I don't buy anything that I go into a store for. Now, because some people say it shows. But the fact is, if you know your size and you know your brand and you know what you like, you know, unless you're talking about a seductive fitting outfit from your 18-year-old daughter, for most of us, I know the brand. What have you got? What's on sale? It's all online. The better sales are online, by the way.
So right now, I can go to a Nordstrom website and look up Chanel and buy it through Nordstrom. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, but you would go to their haute couture website. So they have a special website for shopping online, as many do. But you see, what this all comes down to is what I said in the few minutes when we met. It's all there for you to see. Are you looking? Are you looking at opportunity with new eyes and seeing it? Where are the big options? Aging nation. Big options. And healthcare is not about becoming a doctor. Healthcare has many iterations that you can look at if it interests you. What about the fact that our public schools are not necessarily doing the job we'd like for our children? You might say they're good. Could they be better? Tutoring's big, big. And there are many, many people I know in my own family that all their kids, A students, are tutored. Because that's the world they're coming into, separate tutoring. So look at that. Maybe that could be a role for you. I've always wanted to see a tutoring where we taught children manners and other things like that. And we laugh. But is it a need? You know, somebody will come up with that and say, we need to teach them something a little more about how to be in this world in an effective way. So you'll see these. You all have seen it. You've all seen it, but you didn't relate it to you necessarily. And what I want you to do today in all these things that you go to, keep saying, me, me, me. What works for me? And then you'll find that there are things that do work for you. So any comments, ideas? We have about 5 minutes is all as usual. None? Good. So you're going to be really tired today, so I want you moving. Yes?
Robert Kiyosaki and Donald Trump think that network marketing is business for the 21st century. What is your opinion?
Absolutely. But it's not for everyone. But again, if you're interested in network marketing, define it for me.
Well, it's leveraging your relationships with people you know, and sharing the product that you really believe in.
Or taking an existing firm like Nordstrom's and promoting the living daylights out of them with network marketing benefits someone else. And what's in it for you is you get to play the game because you're bringing that something new to them. So look up network marketing if that interests you, but read it thoroughly because there are many layers to it. That's why I asked you. What I want you to do, how many people here like to read? Thank God. I can promise you that among the many ways there are to learn, one great way is reflection. And sitting with a book that speaks to you is a way to start the process in your head. I don't care if you read it on Kindle, that doesn't bother me. Read it the way it feels good for you. I read on airplanes. And I can go 5 hours on a flight and feel like it's 20 minutes. But that's where I reflect, when I look at it and say, oh, that was interesting. And some of the books that have made me think about the future, the first one was the 70s, the decade that changed America. It tells you everything we've talked about today. Thomas Friedman. Charles Handy was the first one. Anybody heard of Charles Handy? I see one hand up there. Charles Handy was a Shell Oil executive in the Middle East. And he, in 1988, wrote a book about how we were going to become a free agent nation. Remember we talked all about the contingent, however you want to call them? 1988. I was in Raleigh, North Carolina, went to their used bookstore 1 year later and picked up the book and read it between Raleigh and Atlanta. And it changed my thinking about job to free agent. It made me say, why do I really want a job? I want stability and permanency. That's not there. But this free agent nation that Dan Pink wrote since then reemphasizes that. He's a much more famous author today, but Handy's still around. The World is Flat, Friedman's book. You can get most of these used books or used off of Amazon at fractions, or at the library on their once a month, get rid of their old books sale. I think the one that influenced me the most, but I thought was terribly hard reading, was on big data. Because it was kind of overwhelming to me to think about how data analytics is really ruling so much of what we do. It's a deep, tough book. Engineers in this room, any engineers? You'll love it. That's the book for engineers. The book for each one of you is the book that speaks to you. Those are just some suggestions. Go online, take a look. Go to the library for their used book sale. And if it tells you just a hint about what your future can be, what's good about that is we're talking about the future, not the past. I don't want you talking about the past anymore. It's gone, long gone. The book that we have for you that's free is the Plan B book. And it takes you step by step how to do it. I find the book boring. I wrote it. It's very boring to me, but somebody said, can you show me a process? And while I appreciate process, I didn't necessarily want to write it down. The San Diego Mature Workforce website has it. Ask Ellen or Sally. I thought that was on there. I thought we had the website on there, but apparently we don't. It's on the program. Good. The book is really useful if you need process. And I appreciate process. I just didn't like writing about it. You know what I mean? It was just, okay, then do this, then do that. But everybody who's ever read it has said, that gave me the ability to follow an idea in a process that I wouldn't have had otherwise. I would have said, great speech, wonderful, but how do I do it? And that's the how book. And thanks to Ellen, she's got it. 1 minute, we're fine. Always study the market 20 minutes a day, every day. Your career is your business. When you think of it as your business, there are things you're going to look up, and I'll just give you a couple of hints. Who knows how to do a SWOT analysis? He does. Look it up, SWOT. It's going to tell you how to look at your career as a business, as though you were running a business, because you are. Just as if you were running Qualcomm, they have to do a SWOT analysis very frequently. I used to do them every 5 years. Now they probably do them every 6 months, you know. But look at that. Look at the sigmoid curve. Look at SWOT analysis. Look at running the business. Look at selling. Look at marketing. Look at negotiations. And you'll be a far leg up from anybody just trying to meet one person and say, gee, I really need a job. You don't need a job. You need to work. And work has many, many faces. So thank you.